Mr. Chairperson.
Yes.
The House.
Yes.
Because when Pokhran took place, Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee took me also along. I would like to say one thing. We are proud of our scientists.
If you want to speak in the House, you can speak.
We are proud of our scientists because America, with all the information they have, they had no information that India is going to do this test. I think we should take this note and congratulate our scientists that no one in the world came to know that we have done this test.
Sir, you should see a film called Parman.
Thank you. Honourable Member Sri Satyapal Singh ji.
Thank you, Chairman, sir. I rise here in the defence and in support of this new amendment bill, the Weapon of Mass Destruction and Their Delivery System, Prohibition of the Unlawful Activities Amendment Bill 2022. As we know, it was an old act in the same name which was enacted in 2005, many of our esteemed members have mentioned. As the Honourable Member, my Honourable Minister had mentioned yesterday and today also, that we are compliant or conforming to the United Security Council targeted financial sanctions and the recommendations of the Financial Action Task Force, which was mandated against financing of the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and their delivery systems. In view of the above, there is a need to amend the said Act to provide against the financing of proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and their delivery systems so as to fulfill our international obligations. The bill seeks to insert a new section, just 12A. It's not much an amendment in that way. In the existing law, which states that no person shall finance an activity which is prohibited under the Act or under the United Nations Security Council Act 1947 or any other relevant act for the time being in force or by an order issued under any such act in relation to weapons of mass destruction and their delivery systems. The bill would give the Government of India powers to freeze, seize, and attach funds or other financial assets or economic resources owned or controlled wholly or jointly, directly or indirectly by such person or held by or on behalf of or at the direction of such person or derived or generated from the funds of other assets owned or controlled directly or indirectly by such person. Thank you very much. Sir, I would like to say that this bill, this amendment bill, it shows the deep commitment of Government of India to our counter-terror measures. And I would like to congratulate our Honourable Prime Minister, the way he has taken the leadership when he took over as the Prime Minister of this country, appealing the world leaders to define the word as terrorism and to devise an international terrorist strategy. This amendment also shows our commitment to build a strong internal security infrastructure in this country. This bill also shows our deep commitment to international obligations and our conventions. The bill also shows our commitment that the international peace and the security and the welfare of the humanity. That is why I would like to congratulate our Honourable Minister as well as the Prime Minister of India. Chairman, sir, we all know, as has been mentioned earlier, the devastation and destruction these weapons of mass destruction they carry. We all know the cases of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. In Hiroshima, it killed 140,000 people. In Nagasaki, it killed 74,000 people. And the survivors, they suffered with cancer and other ailments in their life. Even otherwise also, there have been recent some incidents, as some of my friends they have mentioned earlier. As Colonel Rathod was telling, what happened in subway in Japan in Tokyo in 1995 and in 2001 in America. Similarly, one Chechen terrorist, he threatened that he had buried a dirty bomb in a Moscow park and he will turn into Moscow city into an eternal desert. Similarly, recently one of the US officials, one American, and counter-terrorism official, he testified before U.S. House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence that Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula has high intention to procure chemical weapons and biological devices, particularly in Pakistan and Yemen. So we cannot say that the threat or the risk is over. We have to be much more vigilant than ever before. Sir, Chairman, sir, I would also like to say, it has been mentioned by Mr. Uttam Kumar, I would like to share his views. As the bill mentioned about this person, perhaps I would like also request the Honourable Minister, now there are firms, there are companies, there are rogue states also. Sometimes they try to fund this kind of the terrorist activities. Similarly about, as Mrs. Supriya Sule was telling, that even in the United Nations vocabulary and the terminology, even the United Nations, the resolution 1540, according which we are now complying with, they have also mentioned in the CBRN, chemical, biological, radiological, and this nuclear weapons. I would also request my Honourable Minister whether he would like to include this kind of the thing, because there is no clarification on these issues. Similarly, I would also like to request, though it is not directly related to his ministry, it comes under the Disaster Management Authority, which comes under the Ministry of Ministry of Home Affairs. I have attended many of the conferences, many of these workshops on the CBRN and how to defend ourselves. In fact, what is happening, unfortunately, even our disaster management manual, it is also not very clear. Who will be the first responder? If suppose there is a biological attack or there is a chemical attack, whether it is generally, traditionally, it is police which is the first responder for such kind of emergencies. Are our police prepared for this? Are our police is trained for it? Are our police is equipped for it? What has happened? Mr. Manish Tiwari was also mentioning. In our this disaster management mechanism, is the BARC, the Baba Atomic Research Center, that is a nodal agency. Whether the Baba Atomic Research Centers will go there or what will really happen? So I would like to request, if the CBRN related disaster is there, is a matter of great concern for all of us. So we are all, a country as a whole is vulnerable to such kind of the attacks. How to prepare ourselves, how to train our forces for this, and how to equip ourselves, that is really very... Nowadays we just believe on this, that NDRF will take care of it, or SDRF will take care of it, but everywhere NDRF is not there, and I think it will take a lot of time. I think that is an issue which should be, I think, Similarly, about large facilities are required to isolate and decontaminate our patients and victims. There is no clarity on that in our disaster management manuals. Sir, I would also like to give one story which has been published by an American book. The book name is Anti-Gravity Handbook. In fact, this story would not have come to our notice. In 1985, this book has been published. They have given a very wonderful story what really happened. In 1965, Chinese, while they were in occupation over Tibet and Lhasa, they got some pages, some Sanskrit manuscript, and these Sanskrit manuscripts were sent to one of Professor Ruth Rayana, an American professor, and a Sanskrit scholar and Indologist. She was on sabbatical at that time in University of Punjab in Ludhiana. These papers or these manuscripts were sent to her for translation. This lady translated this manuscript. One translation was sent to our Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, and one translation of this version was sent to this Chinese. Our Indian Institute of Bangalore, after a few years, they came out that this is not of much use, and it cannot be used, and it is not part of the book we claim, the Jan servers. But after a few years in 1975, Chinese came out with a press conference that these manuscripts, they are very, very important, and they are going to use it in making their interstellar spaceships. Years later, one Professor A.V. Krishnamurthy from the same institute, in Indian Institute of Bangalore, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, he mentioned, yes, we believe that some of our texts, especially Vedas and Sanskrit texts, they have the references to the spacecraft, and the ordinatics and all these things, I would like to request our Honourable Minister, can we have a study on this to defend our country, to defend our citizens? Can we think and study these in Sanskrit texts so that we can find out some defensive mechanism? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Honourable Member Sri E.T. Mohammed Bashir ji.
Sir, thank you very much for giving me